Now everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're looking at, well, 747. You know, classic plane. Ignore the screens look like they're supposed to have void reflections. Well, they're not supposed to. Whatever. 747 is a very reliable aircraft. I mean, for example, if you go over to Google and look up, and I mean, if you look up 747 modifications, there's 57 million results, for God's sake. So there are planes such as the EF, which is whatever else name. That looks like Air Force One, but it isn't. It's basically like Air Force One, but less luxurious, and it's able to withstand the EMP pulse created by nuclear bomb. That one, which in this video, the coolest one in my opinion, Sophia, which is acronym, and it's the it's 747SP, and it has a telescope on it, and it's used to observe the atmosphere at high altitudes. You can see a telescope door opening. It's also the Dream Lifter we covered before. Yeah, there's this, which is a laser, well, it was decommissioned. This 747 used by the Air Force, you can tell, and this laser was meant to be used to defuse nuclear missiles or destroy them. You go on to images, you have this, used to test engines by Pratt & Whitney and Virgin Orbits, which I have to make a video on, especially since they're a bit dead now. Not that. that's pretty cursed. This is the new Air Force One, apparently it's been developed. 747-8, which is the old Air Force One radio. But anyway, you get my point, there's a lot of them. Now the 747 we'll be playing in is one you saw earlier, the 747 with the Space Shuttle. Let's just front out the engine of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, which did survive the full program, unlike some of them. Yeah, let's turn off the brakes. You might be asking, well, what's the point of this? Doesn't the Space Shuttle, well, go to space? Or simply, well, it's quite fitting that we're taking off an Edwards Air Force Base for this. I mean, why are there modifications such as those tail fins there? Well, that's the same mounting system, by the way. The attachment points that they use to attach it to the Space Shuttle's orange external tank, they're the same, by the way. But that's kind of obvious, because they're not going to build different ones for different vehicles. That's just going to add weight, which it can't have added on. So I need to retract these flaps. Yeah, this thing doesn't perform very well. So the big problem was, I mean, we're at Edwards Air Force Base here, and the Space Shuttle, like on its first mission in 1981, actually landed here. So there is a big problem with that, and that's the launch of their rockets. Not in California, where this is, or Nevada. So they launched them all the way over in Cape Canaveral in Florida. So there's a bit of a problem with the Space Shuttle. It's used up all of its fuel. It's used the rocket engines, the RS-25, these main engines here. They don't have any fuel to power them on board the Space Shuttle. All the fuel's in the orange external tank. The only engines that do have onboard fuel are these tiny OMS engines which get it into orbit. Those are out of fuel. And the Space Shuttle, it's literally known as a flying brute because it's so unaerodynamic. Just so it doesn't glide too much in the upper atmosphere, because then it would bounce off the atmosphere and create a whole bunch of problems. We're really high, I just noticed. And so they have to take it somewhere. Well, they have to take it some way, and I have several videos on the Russians and what they used. So yeah, they used the Antonov 225. Just ignore this. They used the Antonov 225, a modification of the Antonov 124, but the Americans didn't have to make crazy modifications. Also, those shouldn't be moving, those aeroplans there on the Space Shuttle, because they already had the 747. But they did have to make modifications such as, I don't know why they didn't just remove, well, I guess for a flight when they aren't carrying this, the Space Shuttle, but they have the vertical stabilizer. But when the Space Shuttle's on, it's going to be pushing the air out of the way, so it's not going to have an effect on the plane. So they have these two here, which explain developers forgot to model, apparently, their animations, because those fins are used for steering it. And yep, you'll find the same thing on the Antonov 225 when it carried the Buran, the Soviet space shuttle, which I have to make a video on eventually. And there's some big problems with this, such as the fact that this plane is being decommissioned because there's not really a reason to build it or keep it anymore. It was a space shuttle. I accidentally detached it. Yeah, they actually did that mid-flight on one of the space shuttles. It wasn't one that flew though, because there were 6 space shuttles, but only 5 of them that actually flew. And that's simply because, well, they needed a test one. That was originally going to be called the Constitution, because it was on the 100th anniversary of the 200th actually anniversary of the US's Declaration of Independence in 1976. In 1976 this was taking place. But a bunch of fans of Star Trek got it to be changed to the Enterprise. It's still in a museum today, but it never flew to space. And that was held on top of this, and sometimes would be detached to Space Shuttle's gliding facility and performance. So they also have to strengthen the fuselage, so if you go inside it will have a bunch of structural supports, because the Space Shuttle weighs about 88 tons unfueled, which is really, really, really heavy. So they obviously had to strengthen the fuselage, and there's a really complex mounting system. I'll probably put up a picture in the corner that was used to attach it, because Space Shuttle's fragile. It has tens of thousands of thermal tiles. I crashed it. Tens of thousands of thermal tiles that pretty much won't withstand any impact, and that led to the loss of Space Shuttle Columbia. And it's just a fragile machine. And so is the 747s. They're not going to just drop it on, so they had to use a whole crane system that you've probably already seen in that picture. But let's just try the gliding performance of the space shuttle. Let's just try launching it midnight flight at a high altitude. How about that? And so we're here at 26,000 feet. I just raised the landing gear, and let's separate it. They also had to be very careful that when they detached it, it wouldn't crash into the plane. That's very realistic. Yeah, that's really realistic. We're not trying to critique it too much. But yeah, the space shuttle could glide. I mean, if it was landing at Edwards Air Force Base, like on the first few missions, I mean, it did land at the White Sands area in New Mexico once, because Edwards Air Force Base flooded, because sure, it's a desert. In deserts, generally, there's a rule that there isn't much rainfall, sure, precipitation, but when it does precipitate, it's very strong. So they had to land at the White Sands area instead. And yeah, that's one. God, look at those wings. I think that's not realistic either. Space shuttle had to land there. I mean, when it starts its descent into the atmosphere at roughly 400,000 feet, it's all the way over in Japan if it wants to land at if it wants to land at Edwards Air Force Base. So it has to cross the entire Pacific, so it can glide for some time, but most of that time the atmosphere is too thin for most of that journey to have much of an effect. For a short time, over a short time frame, of course, because like the ISS, it's having to be boosted up every so often, and every satellite will need to if they want to keep it in orbit for a long time. It's in low Earth orbit. Because the atmosphere is just about thick enough in low Earth orbit to create enough drag to eventually slow down an object enough that it isn't able to overcome Earth's gravitational pull that's trying to pull it towards the planet. What's known as orbiting. I could have said it that way, but I didn't. I don't know why. I mean, gravity's obviously still pulling on it, that's why I didn't just leave it. The Earth curves away faster. We're not crashing it. The Earth curves away faster than how quickly it's falling, because it's orbiting. Let's try and land carefully on the land, but not on the runway, and not with the landing gear. This plane not crash apparently. Yes, the space shuttle carriers are pretty significant. So airplane, the special standard. I mean, a lot of space shuttle missions anyway landed at Kennedy Space Center, so it didn't matter. Because, really, you don't need to take it. You don't need a massive 747 to take it a couple hundred or a couple kilometers. I mean, the space shuttle's runway, by the way, is so long, Kennedy Space Center, there's actually a 5-meter height difference between each end due to the curvature of the Earth, because the Earth isn't flat, everyone. Accept it. So, yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed, please, I'm encouraging it. Please consider dropping like down below, and if you hated it, give it a dislike, I guess. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and as always, good night.